At first glance, you'd say Chris Clark has an enviable job, driving around town and walking our scenic creeks. But when he's on the clock, Chris isn't focused on the beautiful environment. Instead, he's on the lookout for something that threatens it.
And I'm in charge of enforcing the water pollution laws for the city. We have our stormwater permit from the Regional Water Board, and we have to enforce the water pollution laws to meet the requirements for that permit.
In order to enforce these laws, Chris logs many hours traveling Santa Barbara's creeks and streets to look for human activities that negatively affect water quality.
When I'm driving around, this sort of thing with water in the gutter, entering the storm drain, that's really what I'm looking for. And I want to try to find the source of that water, find out if it's, just potable water, in which case, that's all right. But if it's got any pollutants in it, that's going to be a violation of the municipal code, and I got to try to contact whoever's discharging it or responsible for the property, try to get that stopped and cleaned up.
Like most cities, the main water pollution source in the city of Santa Barbara is non-point source pollution, or urban runoff. Urban runoff is a problem because it is so ubiquitous. It happens all over the city, and what we see is people washing out paintbrushes and concrete buckets and sediment and soapy water and antifreeze and oil and things like that they're being washed out in front of people's houses and people's homes, and they're being washed down the gutters and into the storm drain and into the creeks.
Urban runoff is a problem because it can threaten wildlife, cause habitat degradation, and lead to beach closures. Discharge violations often occur unintentionally or without the knowledge of the property owner. When this happens, Chris is there to alert the owner and give them the information they need to ensure it doesn't happen again.
A lot of times people don't really realize that, when they're washing something and all the sediment, dirt, oils or whatever from what they're cleaning, they don't really think about where the water's going. And a lot of times it'll run off the property into the storm drain system, into the creeks and oceans.
In addition to discovering illegal discharges while out in the field, Chris also responds to the reports from the public via the enforcement hotline. First-time infractions elicit a warning, but if they are repeated or if they are not corrected, the violator can be cited. But the Creeks Code enforcement job is more about education than it is citation.
So the City Council has directed us to first try to educate someone. So if we have someone who is rinsing out paintbrushes in the gutter and allowing that water to leave the property, first thing we'll go out and do is talk to them, explain to them why that's a problem and why that's going to cause water pollution. And we will send them a letter, and we will let them know that it violates the law, but there will be no fine for that first offense. The idea is to educate people, and what we find more than 99% of the time is that a person didn't really think about where the water was going. And once they realize that, they know what they're doing, they won't let it happen again, and we don't have a lot of repeat offenders.
Human waste, another pollutant Chris is on the lookout for, can be very detrimental to water quality. Homeless encampments, in particular, raise a number of issues for the health of our creeks.
Having bacteria and other things coming from human waste is not something we want in the creeks and oceans, not what we want to be swimming in, not what we want to be surfing in. And bridges tend to be a hot spot for illegal dumping and transient encampments.
The Creeks Division employs contractors to clean up the creeks and tries to keep a continuous presence at known encampment locations to discourage transients from returning afterwards.
We do have to post 48-hour notices, give people a chance to remove their belongings, because we don't want to take things from people.
To track the effectiveness of their efforts and to keep tabs on water quality, Chris and other Creeks Division staff regularly grab water samples.
We're looking at indicator bacteria, we're looking at heavy metals and other things like that, just as a standard monitoring, so we know what's going on all the time. And then if we see a spike in something, then we can go and try to find a source.
We measure the effectiveness of our enforcement program both through water quality monitoring, but also by how many calls we get from the public, how quickly we're able to respond, and our ability to prevent those pollutants from making their way to the storm drain. So if we get a call from someone in the public to our enforcement hotline, our code enforcement officer immediately will go out into the field and we'll try to stop that pollution in the gutter before it makes its way into the storm drain and into the creek. And that way we can definitely know when we're keeping pollution out of the waterways.